I want to start this video off by giving you a chance to prepare for what I'm about to say. So go on and take a deep breath and get ready. All right, long enough. Everybody that you see is not human. Everybody that you see out here is not actually alive, not actually living. Now today I was just doing a Bible study as usual, and I ran across some things that I just couldn't believe. You got to see this. All right, like I'm saying, and JT, you know, we done talked about this several times. Over the last 4 or 5 years, man, we done talked about this subject so many times. Everybody you see is not human, not alive, not living. There are some people who are actually dead, not real. So check this out. So it won't just be me doing a lot of talking. I'm going to give you scripture after scripture after scripture, stuff that we done read but we overlooked. All right, let's start in John 11:25. Jesus made a statement. He said, "He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live." He's talking about actual people who are dead, but through believing in him, you shall live. All right, that's real light. Overlooked, yes, but all right, yeah, you get, okay, let's move on to something else. If you look at Romans 4:17, it says God quickens the dead and calls those things that be not as though they were. We hear that all the time, but look at it, read it slow. God quickens the dead. Once we come in contact with God, he quickens us. We are quickened by the Spirit of God. So what were we before we were quickened? We were dead. Just like some people out here are dead. I know I'm probably losing you, but please hold on. Keep listening. If you look at the book of Jude, chapter 1, these type of people are considered clouds without water. Let me see, I got it right here. Clouds, they are without water, carried about of winds. They are considered trees whose fruit withereth. Without fruit, and it says twice dead. Twice dead. Everybody ain't alive. Okay. Then we have to go to Matthew 8:22. Jesus told a man that wanted to go bury his father before following Christ. He said, "Let the dead bury their dead." Why is Christ calling these people that are burying his dead father? Why is he calling these people dead? Everybody out here is not alive. Everybody is not real. If we look at John chapter 3, verse 5, Jesus told Nicodemus, they were talking about getting into the kingdom of heaven and being born again. Jesus said that a man has to be born of water and born of the Spirit or he will not see the kingdom of heaven. Born of water and born of the Spirit. Now we know that when we are born, babies, when they're born, they are born from water. That is born of water. So one qualification of getting into the kingdom of heaven is to be born of water. Why is Christ saying that is a qualification if everybody out here is born of water? I said, why is Christ telling Nicodemus that in order to see the kingdom of heaven, you have to be born of water? If everybody is already born of water, that wouldn't even be a qualification. Everybody out here is not real. It's right there in Scripture. We have to allow Christ to come into our hearts so that we can be alive. There are people out here, or who we see as people, they don't even have the opportunity to accept Christ because they're not real to begin with. They were never born of water to begin with. They're not alive to begin with. And because this is not taught, we don't know this, so we waste a lot of time out here witnessing and trying to talk to people and wondering why we break down life to these people and they still don't accept the truth. Because they can't accept the truth. They're not real. Who told us that we could reach everybody? We're supposed to be reaching out to the people that God tells us to reach out to. We're supposed to be reaching out to people who Christ puts in our hearts to go after. Not every single person, because every single person can't make it in anyway. They don't fit the qualifications. They're not real. This is why we have to be so careful to be led by the Spirit of God and not led by anything that we heard or led by our own emotions. Now, I have to go to the book of Jude because I'm about to show you in Scripture where we were told that everybody out here is not real. Everybody out here is not human. And this blew my mind because I have read this so many times and never saw it until now. So check me out. We go into the book of Jude. Of course, there's only one chapter in the book of Jude. And let's see. Let's start with verse 6. I won't call out the verses, but I'll just read starting at verse 6. And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day. Now this is talking about the fallen angels. Okay, it says even as Sodom and Gomorrah. So it's comparing the fallen angels who left heaven. It's comparing them to the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. It says even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh. This is what the people did. They gave themselves over to fornication and they going after strange flesh are set forth for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. It says, likewise, also these filthy dreamers, we are back to verse 6, talking about the fallen angels. These filthy dreamers defile the flesh, they despise dominion, and they speak evil of dignities. Yet, Michael the archangel, when contending with the devil, he disputed about the body of Moses. It's saying Michael the archangel disputed against the devil about the body of Moses, but he did not bring against the devil a railing accusation. He didn't accuse him of nothing, but he said, the Lord rebuked thee. But these, talking about the fallen, they speak evil of those things which they know not, but what they know naturally as brute beasts, talking about the fallen, in those things they corrupt themselves. Woe unto them, for they have gone in the way of Cain, and ran greedily after the error of Balaam for reward, and perished in the gainsaying of Kor. These are spots in your feast of charity when they feast with you. Okay, hold on a minute now. What does this say? We're talking about the fallen. Where are the fallen? They are in your feast of charity when they feast with you. They're out here, feeding themselves without fear. They are right out here with us, communing with us, feasting with us, fellowshipping with us, without fear. Clouds they are without water, carried about of winds, trees whose fruit wherewith without fruit, withereth without fruit, twice dead, plucked up by the roots, raging waves of the sea, foaming out their own shame, wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. Go read that. It's letting us know, just like it did back in the beginning of the Bible, where it said that, what did it say about the giants? There were giants in the land in those days, and also after that. They never left. The same way those demons, Christ allowed them to go into the swine, and they ran off the mountain into the water and drowned themselves so they would be free. Those Nephilim giants who died in the flood, guess what? Those spirits were free. You can't drown a spirit. They never left. And if you go to the book of Jude and read what I just read, it's only one chapter. Go read it. They still here. They're right out here with us, and we looking at them thinking they're human, and they're not. We talking to them, trying to get them to give their life to Christ, but they can't. So many of us are being deceived because we're listening to pastors who are not teaching the truth. They're teaching lies because that's not pastor. That's one of these things. You're falling because you're listening to that guy on YouTube who say he used to be a pastor, but he left the church, and he's giving you all this information to try to get you to leave the church, and you're listening to him not knowing that he is one of these. Everybody out here is not human. We better wake up to that truth. Genesis 2:7 says that God breathed the breath of life into Adam, and he became a living soul. The only way to live is through God. That's the only way to live. That's why we have God's system. When we open our mouth and talk, what we speak happens. You know why? Because that breath that you're using is the breath that God breathed into us. And when we use that breath, great things happen. That's why when God created the animals, he brought the animals to Adam. And it says whatever Adam called them, that's what they were. Why? because Adam is using that breath that God put in him. That breath ain't no joke. But everybody out here don't have that breath because everybody is not human.